what just happened to all of you. It's about to get worse.
Joanna, we know you've spoken with the baptizer.
John, something's happening. John, there's a plot. They're going to kill you.
The Chosen Season 5 Episode 1 trailer has finally dropped, and what it reveals will leave you stunned. This is not just another opening episode, this is the beginning of the end. And what Judas does in this premiere, you won't believe it. The tension is real, the emotions are raw, and the betrayal is already brewing in silence. But it's not just Judas who's changing. Every disciple is walking closer to the storm, even though they still don't understand what's coming. And yet they follow. So let's dive into everything you need to know about The Chosen Season 5 Episode 1 and its shocking trailer. Judas Iscariot has always been a shadow in the background, quiet, watching, calculating. But in The Chosen Season 5 Episode 1, his silence screams. This is the episode where his presence starts to feel heavier, more uncomfortable, almost like a ticking clock hidden in the middle of a worship song. He walks with the disciples, eats with them, prays beside them, and yet something's different. It's not what he says, it's what he doesn't. The trailer doesn't reveal a dramatic confrontation or a sudden betrayal. No, what it shows is far more unsettling. Judas still looks like he belongs. That's what makes it so haunting, because we know the truth, we know what's coming, but in Episode 1 no one else does. There's a moment in the trailer where Jesus looks across the group. His eyes meet Judas just for a second. And in that single look, everything changes. You can feel it. Jesus knows. Maybe he always has. And Judas, he looks away. Not in guilt, but in fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of what he's becoming. Or maybe fear of what he's already decided to do. That tension lingers in every frame of the premiere. The other disciples, still unaware, are focused on the growing tension between their mission and the mounting pressure from the religious leaders. But beneath all of it, Judas is crumbling in slow motion. This episode doesn't rush it. It lets you sit in the discomfort. It lets you feel every silent second ticking down to the inevitable betrayal. Luke Dimion, who plays Judas, has said before that portraying this character isn't about playing a villain. It's about playing someone torn apart from the inside. And in Episode 1, that's exactly what we see. Judas isn't evil here. He's broken, conflicted, still grasping for something that might save him from himself. But the more he tries to justify his choices, the deeper he slips. And honestly, it's painful to watch, because you want to believe he'll change. You want to believe he'll confess, that he'll turn back, but you know he won't. And The Chosen leans into that heartbreak in a way few shows dare to do. This slow unraveling is what gives the premiere its power. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, emotional, and deeply human. You're not just watching a traitor. You're watching a friend, a brother, a man who shared meals, laughter, and prayers with the very person he's going to betray. And what makes it worse is that Jesus lets him. He welcomes him. He washes his feet. That kind of love, knowing what's coming and still choosing kindness, that's the real weight of Season 5. And it begins right here in Episode 1. The trailer may not show Judas handing over silver coins or meeting with the Sanhedrin, but it doesn't need to. His betrayal has already begun. In his heart, in his silence, in the way he flinches every time Jesus says something about sacrifice or loyalty or love. Episode 1 doesn't rush into chaos. Instead, it builds a quiet tension that feels almost sacred and yet fragile. Jesus and his disciples are still together, walking, talking, healing. But something's different. The warmth is still there, yes, but the air has changed. It's heavier. Every word Jesus says, every parable, every moment of silence carries double meaning. He's no longer just preparing them for ministry, he's preparing them for loss, for grief, for a future where he's no longer standing beside them, and the audience can feel that coming storm even before the disciples do. That's what makes Episode 1 so heartbreaking. It's not that tragedy strikes, it's that no one knows just how close it is. As Jesus moves through the episode with his usual compassion and power, you begin to see something shift in his demeanor. He's still loving, still kind, but he's also focused in a way that feels almost solemn. The crowds are still following him, still hanging on his every word. But the opposition is growing stronger behind the scenes. The religious leaders are whispering, watching, plotting. We know it won't be long now before they move from shadows into open confrontation. And yet, in this first episode, Jesus doesn't confront them directly. Not yet. Instead, he uses this brief moment of calm to speak to the hearts of those closest to him. He looks them in the eye. He tells them stories with layers deeper than they can yet understand. And with every passing moment, you can feel the weight he carries, not just as a teacher, but as a man marching toward his own sacrifice. Simon Peter is perhaps the most visibly affected. In episode 1, his loyalty burns bright, but so does his fear. He doesn't understand everything Jesus is saying, not yet, but he knows something is coming. He knows danger is near. And that unease starts to surface in the way he speaks, the way he questions. You can see it in his eyes. He wants to protect Jesus, even if he doesn't fully grasp the threat. That inner turmoil makes him one of the most relatable characters in the premiere. Because don't we all feel like that sometimes? Wanting to follow what we believe in, but unsure if we're strong enough when the real test comes? Then there's Matthew, quiet, thoughtful, and deeply changed from the man we first met seasons ago. In episode 1, he listens closely to everything Jesus says, almost like he's trying to memorize it, trying to hold on to something he can't quite name. He's more sensitive to the mood around him, picking up on tensions others might miss. His presence this season is going to be powerful because while he may not be the loudest or the boldest, he understands things in ways that go beyond words. And in this premiere, that sensitivity makes him a kind of emotional anchor for the disciples and for us. Mary Magdalene also plays a key role in this opening chapter. Her faith has been tested in so many ways across past seasons, and yet here she is, still standing still, devoted. In episode 1, she's not just a follower anymore. She's a leader in her own right. Her interactions with Jesus are tender and wise, and there's a quiet strength in the way she supports the others. She senses the tension too. She sees what's shifting in the group, and though she might not say it outright, her expressions and quiet moments speak volumes. Her journey in season 5 will no doubt be full of sorrow and strength, and in this first episode we get the beginning of that path. But perhaps the most chilling contrast in episode 1 is between the peace within the group and the chaos waiting just beyond it. The Romans are restless, the temple leaders are watching, the crowds are growing, but so is the danger. Every miracle performed in public, every time Jesus challenges a law or tradition adds fuel to a fire that's about to explode. And yet there's a kind of serenity in Jesus' actions, almost like he's already accepted what must come. He doesn't resist it, he walks toward it. And that calm in the face of the storm is both comforting and devastating. The Chosen doesn't just give us a surface-level portrayal of faith in episode 1, it gives us the full emotional weight of what it means to love someone you know you'll lose. The disciples are clinging to Jesus, but they don't yet realize how short their time with him is. And that makes every shared meal, every laugh, every moment of eye contact feel like a goodbye they don't know they're saying. That's the heartbreak of episode 1. It's not about what's happening, it's about what's coming. And because we know the ending, we feel the pain even more deeply than the characters do. Judas Iscariot, his name alone carries centuries of sorrow. And in the Chosen season, 5 episode 1, his presence is impossible to ignore. But here's the twist. He's not the villain yet. Not in the way we expect. He walks with Jesus, smiles with the others, listens with reverence, and even shows moments of deep admiration. And that's what makes it so haunting. Because this Judas is still part of the family. Still trusted, still believed in, still loved. The show doesn't treat him as a shadow lurking in the background. He's front and center, woven into the daily lives of the disciples. And while we all know where this story ends, The Chosen dares to show us the path Judas takes to get there, slowly, painfully, and tragically. In episode 1, there's a kind of innocence to Judas, almost as if he truly doesn't see what he's capable of yet. He's helpful, respectful, and even playful with the others. There are moments when he looks at Jesus, and you can see admiration in his eyes, genuine affection he wants to believe. He does believe, or at least he thinks he does, but under the surface, something else is building. A quiet restlessness, a subtle discomfort with how things are being handled. He doesn't voice it, not yet, but the seeds are being planted. And as an audience, we're forced to watch him with new eyes. We're no longer seeing Judas as the man who betrayed Christ. We're watching the friend who is slowly losing his way. This emotional complexity is what makes Judas' portrayal in The Chosen so unforgettable. He's not some dark force hovering in the background. He's someone we understand. Someone who could be any one of us, caught between faith and fear, devotion and doubt. In this first episode, you see him trying to find his place. He watches how Jesus interacts with others. He notices the crowd dynamics. He starts questioning things, not always out loud, but you can see it in his reactions. And those silent moments are powerful, because sometimes the most dangerous thoughts are the ones that stay unspoken. There's a scene, quiet, almost casual, where Judas shares a moment with Jesus. It's warm, genuine, and heartbreaking in hindsight, because the connection between them feels real. Jesus doesn't hold back with Judas. He looks at him with the same love he gives to the others. He teaches him, trusts him. And in that moment, you wonder, how could it all go so wrong? How could this man, this brother, be the one to hand over the Son of God? That's the genius of The Chosen. It doesn't just make you understand the betrayal, it makes you feel it coming like a slow-motion heartbreak you can't stop. But there's another layer here too. And that's the way the other disciples treat Judas. In episode 1, no one is suspicious of him. No one questions his loyalty. He's one of them. Peter jokes with him. Matthew includes him. Even Mary smiles at him with warmth. And that trust, that inclusion, it makes his future actions even more devastating. Because he's not an outsider looking in. He's part of the circle. And yet, something is stirring in him. A conflict he can't shake. A tension between who he wants to be and who he's becoming. The brilliance of Luke Dimion's performance as Judas lies in the way he balances that internal struggle. He plays him with empathy, not menace. You don't hate Judas in episode 1. You worry for him. You hope he doesn't do what you know he's going to do. You look for signs that he'll turn back, that something will change. But you also start to see the cracks. Maybe it's the way he hesitates during a conversation. Maybe it's the lingering glance he gives when someone questions Jesus' methods. Maybe it's the subtle way his jaw tightens when plans don't go as expected. It's all so small, so easy to miss. But it's there. And it's terrifying. And that brings us to one of the most chilling realizations of the entire premiere. Judas doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. Not yet. He believes in Jesus' mission, but maybe not in his methods. He wants results. He wants change. He wants to see something happen. And that desire, however noble it may seem, is slowly being twisted, not by evil, not by hatred, but by impatience. And as he begins to question the pace of Jesus' ministry, the door cracks open for something darker to enter. That's the tragedy. Not that Judas hated Jesus, but that he tried to force something in his own way, and it destroyed everything. The episode doesn't rush to reveal too much. It's careful, deliberate. It's like watching a beautiful painting slowly tear at the edges. You want to stop it. You want to scream at the characters, tell them what's coming. But they can't hear you. They're too busy believing in the moment, too caught up in the miracle of being with Jesus, to realize that one of their own is falling apart right beside them. By the end of episode 1, Judas is still good in the eyes of the group. Still trusted, still seen as a brother. But for us, the viewers, the emotional weight is unbearable. Because now we're not just watching a betrayal. We're watching a friendship crumble. A soul slip away. A man once so close to truth lose himself to something he doesn't fully understand. And that more than anything else is what sets The Chosen apart. It doesn't tell you how to feel. It shows you the people. It gives you the silence, the glances, the tension, and lets your heart break on its own. Jerusalem is calling. And in The Chosen season, 5 episode 1, we begin to feel the pressure of that coming moment, even if the characters don't fully understand it yet. The city is still in the distance, not yet reached, but its shadow is already falling across every step Jesus and his followers take. There's a quiet urgency in the air, a shift in tone that tells us everything is about to change. The warmth of Galilee, the comfort of familiar places, the joy of shared meals, all of it is slowly giving way to something heavier, something sacred, something dangerous. Jerusalem is not just a destination. It's the place where prophecy meets pain. And in this episode, that looming journey begins to reshape everyone. Jesus, more than anyone, knows what's coming. He doesn't flinch from it, but his demeanor is different now. More focused, more direct, more urgent. He still smiles, still teaches, still laughs with his disciples. But there's a deeper layer of weight behind his words. He begins to speak in ways that hint at his destiny. The parables are sharper. The lessons carry a double meaning. The people around him don't always understand, but we do. And that knowledge, that terrible, beautiful knowledge, makes every word feel like a countdown. Jesus is preparing them. Even if they don't realize it yet, he's slowly leading them to the place where everything will break and everything will be fulfilled. For the disciples, there's confusion. They've been walking with Jesus for so long, witnessing miracle after miracle, that the idea of loss feels almost impossible. They know he's different. They know he's more than just a teacher, but they still imagine a victory shaped by power, a kingdom rising in this world, a political triumph, a revolution. And so as Jesus begins to shift their focus toward Jerusalem, there's tension. Unspoken at first, but it's there. Why leave the safety of Galilee? Why move toward the heart of the enemy? Why embrace the path that looks like defeat? Peter, always the bold one, starts to question it. Not in anger, but in concern. His loyalty is fierce, but his fear is growing. He's already lost so much. And now the man he loves like no other is walking straight into the lion's den. Peter doesn't want to see it, can't accept it. And yet deep down, he knows something is changing, something irreversible. His faith is strong, but his heart is cracking. Because following Jesus now means choosing the road to heartbreak. And he's not alone. Mary Magdalene, whose faith has never wavered, begins to feel the chill of what's coming. Her devotion is pure, but she senses the storm. The joy that once lit every gathering now feels quieter, more sacred. Every word Jesus speaks feels like a goodbye wrapped in hope. She begins to cherish every moment, every look, every prayer, because something in her knows. Whether through divine intuition or deep emotional awareness, Mary begins to grieve the future while still clinging to the present. Her silence speaks louder than words. Even Matthew, the one so grounded in logic and detail, can't help but notice the shift. His notes, once full of stories and teachings, now record moments with a kind of urgency. It's as if he too is trying to capture the last light before the darkness falls. He sees how Jesus interacts with the crowds, how he pauses just a little longer, how he looks at the children, how he seems to be soaking in every detail, as if each one is a memory he's preparing to leave behind. Matthew may not fully understand what's coming, but he feels the finality in the air. And then there's Thomas, still carrying the weight of Rama's death. His grief hasn't faded, but it's changed him, made him quieter, deeper. He listens more, watches more. He sees things in Jesus now that he never noticed before. Subtle gestures, expressions, pauses. Thomas doesn't speak of his sorrow often, but it's there. And it binds him to what's coming. Because if Jesus is walking toward his end, then Thomas refuses to let him do it alone. His pain has become his loyalty, and that loyalty will carry him straight into the fire. And then there's his growing connection with outsiders. Whispers from the Pharisees, subtle gestures from temple guards, sideways glances in crowded markets. Episode 1 is filled with these moments almost too quick to catch. But if you're watching closely, they tell a story. Judas is being noticed. Approached tempted? They don't have to say much. Just a question here. A compliment there. They know he's close to Jesus. They know he's smart, capable. And more importantly, they sense that he's not entirely convinced by the path Jesus is choosing. The darkness around Judas isn't sudden, It's slow creeping and deliberate. And this episode starts to pull us into that descent. Meanwhile, Jesus continues to treat Judas with love, with trust, with tenderness. That's what makes it so heartbreaking. He knows. Of course he knows. And yet he never pulls away, never exposes Judas to the others, never tries to change the script. Jesus looks at Judas with the same love he gives to Peter, to John, to Mary. And Judas can't handle it. That grace becomes unbearable. That kindness becomes a mirror to his own growing guilt. And instead of bringing him back, it pushes him further away. Because how do you stand in front of someone who knows exactly what you're going to do and still loves you anyway? The other disciples remain mostly unaware, for now. Peter is too focused on protecting Jesus. John is too wrapped in awe and devotion. Matthew is too busy observing everything else. And Mary, she may feel something is off, but she can't name it yet. Judas is still part of the circle, still breaking bread with them, still laying his head beside theirs. That's the terror of betrayal. It comes from within. And the chosen masterfully plays with that tension. Every moment Judas shares with the others is a thread in a time bomb. Because we know how this ends. We know who he becomes, but they don't. Not yet. And so episode 1 ends with Judas still smiling, still following, still holding the money bag, still pretending. But something in his eyes is already gone. He's walking with the Messiah, yes, but his heart is already turning towards silver coins. The line between loyalty and betrayal is paper thin now. And season 5 is going to rip it wide open. We're not just watching a betrayal. We're watching a man destroy himself in slow motion. And there is nothing we, or anyone, can do to stop it. This final section of episode 1 leaves us with a hollow ache. Because as the group continues toward Jerusalem, as miracles give way to warnings, as joy gives way to dread, Judas walks among them, still chosen, still loved, still welcomed, but already lost. And that more than anything sets the tone for this entire season. The chosen is not just about light. It's about the cost of carrying that light into a world full of shadows. And Judas, tragic, proud, misguided Judas, is the darkest shadow of all.